Okay, Channel 5, take it easy.
Paul McCartney rocks the heck out of Riverfront Coliseum, and he stops to talk exclusively with News 5. McCartney Magic tonight at Riverfront Coliseum. The former Beatle has just wrapped up an explosive 2.5-hour concert.
Before it all got started, McCartney talked exclusively to News 5's John London.
John is live now near the Coliseum to tell us they even talked about a Beatles reunion. John, what an interview.
Yeah, we did. We touched on that subject. We caught up with him backstage about 90 minutes before tonight's show, a show which is just letting out. The traffic is heading out now. This was the hottest ticket in town tonight at Riverfront Coliseum, and I think you can probably well understand why. McCartney singing songs of yesterday, but as he explains, those songs have a mighty fresh sound to him.
A lot of them we never toured with. A lot of them we just recorded, and by the time we were ready to kind of tour with them, we'd broken up as a touring band, and we're just recording. So things like Hey Jude and Sgt. Pepper and Fool on the Hill are like brand new songs to me. It's very nice.
That is McCartney backstage, and this is McCartney on stage. Opening with Figure of Eight from his new Flowers in the Dirt album, then giving his legion of fans some musical nostalgia from his days with the Beatles. That is what brings people in their 40s to a rock concert in the 90s.
It's the music. It's the music. It's remembering buying the White Album when I was 15 years old. It's that kind of thing.
It is the kind of thing Cincinnatians remember from the last time McCartney was here, selling out Cincinnati Gardens with a group that revolutionized music. McCartney telling us tonight his touring in the mid-60s is all a blur. The guys in his new band seem to like the old songs as much as the fans from those days.
You know, I used to play some of them, so it's kind of fun to play them again, you know, but to be playing them with Paul. Only now he's doing the parts I used to do.
As for the possibility of a musical reunion with the remaining Beatles...
No, I mean, the thing is, you know, I'm sure I'll get back together with George and Ringo and play some music, but everyone then says, oh, it's a Beatles reunion, and obviously without John there could never be that kind of thing. But I'm sure we'll get back together and play some music some point.
So there you have it from Paul McCartney. When we were interviewing him tonight, he was holding a cup of English tea for his throat, for his voice. He's been having voice problems, as you know. They even had to postpone tomorrow night's Lexington concert until April because of voice problems. Members of the band telling me tonight that they've spaced things out a little bit more now to make it less of a grind, less of a strain. So that's it. The show's out. Everybody had a good time. Reporting live from the Coliseum, I'm John London, News 5.
John, this was the most exciting assignment you've ever had. Wasn't it?
Maybe so.
Definitely. You know, John caught up with Paul McCartney. He was so impressed that Paul McCartney was just so willing to talk to him, and seems to be a great guy.
Certainly want to thank him for that Channel 5 plug.
Yeah, right.
We'll be playing that a couple of times.
Sure.
We all know what impact Paul McCartney has had on shaping the music in our world. Now he's having an impact on saving the environment in the world. McCartney takes time out during his concerts to address issues like pollution, the ozone, and global warming. He's doing it all on behalf of an international group called Friends of the Earth. The head of that group tells News 5's Curtis Fuller McCartney is the biggest promotion for his organization.
And one of the things he does, he talks about us in his program, and he sings Let It Be, which is his way of saying we've got to let the earth live. We can't keep interfering with the natural cycles of life. I think that's really his message.
Clark tells us membership in his group has gone way up since McCartney got on the bandwagon. And ironically, Clark says he first saw the Beatles right here in Cincinnati back in 1964.
In other news now, Coleraine McCartney last toured to
past their importance, but we persist because this is personal. Rock and roll's greatest performer will wear no crown, of course, but there's no championship to be fought over by contemporaries, no relevant statistics to be measured in terms of comparisons with past greats. Indeed, the title of rock's greatest is held only in our individual minds, and yet we argue intensely because it's our own history we're talking about. You see, whomever you think's the greatest, the chances are it's someone whose prime coincides with our youth. I suspect it's because our teens and young adult years are clearly when pop music is most significant to us. And maybe that's because that's when we're falling in love or trying to or dealing most vigorously with relationships. And the radio, or today MTV and CDs and tapes, become the background music to life. Indeed, for most Americans, their favorite performer probably is someone who was big in their senior year in high school. And yes, there must be exceptions, because I'm not willing to say Bobby Vinton singing Roses Are Red was the best ever. But generally it's no accident that those who think Sinatra's the king are kind of older, and those who swear that Elvis still lives probably were teens in the 50s. And if it's Springsteen or Michael Jackson that gets the nod, we're looking at the class of the late 70s or early 80s. But let me settle the uncertainty with the same lack of objectivity I normally reserve for these commentaries by suggesting that the man who graced the stage of the Coliseum last night was part of the creative genius that made up the greatest musical group of the century, the greatest rock group of all time, the Beatles. Their music changed the industry, changed rock and roll, indeed changed Western culture in terms of style, attitudes, and the politics of youth. And 100 years from now, their music will still be played even by symphony orchestras who are already playing it. There have been better musicians, better singers, better writers. But nobody could do it all with such impact while leaving a mark of such longevity. There'll be no reunion tours, of course. A crazed assassin saw to that. But those of us old enough to remember can never forget that where music has always been the language of the generation, the Beatles were the one group that created and shaped a generation, which is why no concert ever sold out faster, and why when Paul McCartney sang yesterday, we knew it was forever. A little later, a look at the Paul McCartney tour that will soon rock Cincinnati.
Former Beatle Paul McCartney and his boys are once again a band on the run. Tonight, McCartney kicked off the second leg of his U.S. tour with a rock and roll extravaganza in Detroit. Here is what it sounded like.
We travel up continuous line. They never got them all the time.
Yes, the former member of the Fab Four is bringing his show to Cincinnati. He'll be at Riverfront Coliseum on Monday, February 12th. If you want tickets, you better know somebody in the band, or you better know a good ticket scalper, because for this superstar, every seat in the place is sold out. Not too many seats. What, 14, 16,000 tickets?
Yeah, and they set a record like in the first 19 minutes or so, the whole thing was sold out. Well, there are all kinds of young superstars making names for them.
Last night's sellout crowd at Riverfront Coliseum are probably talking nonstop about Paul McCartney today. The former Beatle brought his world tour to Cincinnati, and judging from the reaction of his many fans, it was a night to remember. News 5's John Lennon got a chance to interview McCartney before the show, and he spent some time backstage as well. Quite a thrill.
We got to talk to band members, and then McCartney came by, walking by after a sound check on stage, and we got in a couple of questions about his voice, his music, a possible reunion with George Harrison and Ringo Starr. Here's part of what he had to say about an hour or so before the big show.
I'm sure I'll get back together with George and Ringo and play some music, but everyone then says, oh, it's a Beatles reunion, and obviously without John there could never be that kind of thing. But I'm sure we'll get back together and play some music some point.
It's been a hard day's night.
Anyone who remembers the excitement McCartney and the Beatles created in the 1960s will be happy to hear that. It would be the kind of thing that gives a sense of time and history and moment.
I gotta know, I gotta know.
At this moment, McCartney and his specially formed world tour band are going hell for leather, as they put it, pushing Paul's new material like last night's opener, Figure of Eight. But much of the show features many of the songs that makes McCartney special.
A lot of them we never toured with. A lot of them we just recorded, and by the time we were ready to kind of tour with them, we'd broken up as a touring band, and we're just recording. So things like Hey Jude and Sgt. Pepper and Fool on the Hill are like brand new songs to me. It's very nice.
McCartney's in Indianapolis tonight. Originally, he was supposed to perform in Lexington a couple nights ago, but that concert was postponed to give the band more time to rest their voices, something they all said was needed. In fact, when we talked with McCartney last night, he was holding a cup of tea, nursing his throat.
Looking at the interview that you had with him, I was so amazed that he seemed so accessible and so easygoing.
He was certainly nice enough to take a moment and stop by and talk to us as he was moving backstage, something he clearly did not have to do.
A very nice guy and a good interview.
Yeah,
thanks a lot, John.
Earlier today, I got John London's autograph just for talking to Paul. You're my hero, John. That's great. Up next, one of the largest investment firms in the country is Bank.